For the JD Edwards Forum. We are very grateful for your support. As people are still coming in, we will just take a minute and I'll do the welcome. Hopefully in the next minute or so, everybody has joined. So the topics today are JD Edwards Release 24. And I think just to again iterate what did Oracle decide from a product direction and naming convention. So we all know that 9.2 is the forever release, and in 2022 they decided to name the releases per year. So this is release 24, which was then released in November of 2023, the first update. So today, Rian van der Bank will take us through the release highlights. Warwick Dromkul will look at the enterprise automation and what the difference is between process automation and enterprise automation that was introduced in release 24. Akona Mahona will take us through automated package builds and a very important current tool that has been enhanced, the impact analysis dashboard, and the enhancements that has been applied to the impact analysis to make sure that you can remain code current. And then Werner Heitman will show some practical examples on workflow. Again, there were some enhancements made in release 24. So thank you. And just for the record, we're recording this. We will make sure that we'll send out the recording as well as the slides. Thank you again, everybody. Enjoy. And I'm going to hand over to Rian van der Bank now.
Okay, good morning, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Deirdre. I see there's still some people coming in, but I'm going to start anyway because we do have a bit of a time constraint and a lot to get through. All right, so Oracle continues to develop and release new functionality for JD Edwards to make sure that remains a world-class product. So please allow me to take you through a couple of the highlights from release 2024. Some of the items I will discuss and explain a bit more in detail, and others I will just mention. You can obviously go to Learn JD Edwards to get a bit more information about those particular items. All right. So release 24 highlights November 2023 in the procurement side. They allowed introduce functionality for standalone check price in procurement. That is for the guys that use advanced pricing in procurement. I hope you all know that you can use advanced pricing with procurement to do complex calculations for purchase prices. Prior to this enhancement, you had to basically capture or go into a purchase order or requisition P4310 and capture a line there to see the price. Now the functionality is there to view it without going into PO. Next item that was released is a bit of a bug, if I can call it like that, an annoyance. Prior to this enhancement, if you cancelled a purchase order line in or during the receipt process on P4312, and you cancel that line, the related requisition line was opened automatically. So that is a bit of a bug, a pain in the rear. That was now fixed and sorted out. Next item, this is one of these that I will explain in a bit more detail. That is volume-based buying recommendations in procurement. Once again, this pertains to advanced pricing in procurement, but very, very nice functionality. I will explain this in a bit more detail. On the inventory side, also a great enhancement that's been made. Oracle introduced functionality to automatically calculate safety stock based on sales history, item ledger, and certain other parameters. I will explain that in a bit more detail. And also on the inventory side, you can now, and I know a lot of customers over the years have asked for this, you can put an inventory location on hold. Previously, you can just put the lot on hold, but now you can actually put the actual location on hold. That definitely will improve your inventory management. On the finance side, they added the ability or functionality where they can now drill down from are into the purchase order receipt straight from account ledger inquiry application from a row exit there. So you don't have to scroll and access multiple programs to view what you need. Also in finance, there is new functionality added where you can define a document type on your journal entry on P0911, I think it is. Previously, I had to capture that in. Now you can default one in there. And there's improved asset cost analysis inquiry screen that has been added. Let me just, what was this cursor gone to? Here we go. January 2024, there was enhancement released on sales order management, where you can do your order preparation and delivery preference dates based on a workday calendar that you specify. So you don't deliver on a Saturday when you don't work. The system suggests that. May 2024, once again on sales order management, enterprise automation for the order to cash process has been introduced. Warwick will explain a bit more about enterprise automation, especially on the procurement side during the session. Wonderful tool, wonderful functionality that has been added by Oracle there. Manufacturing, we added functionality for production, lot serial number, and location automation. Procurement, May 2024, enterprise automation has been improved to add additional KPIs for the procure to pay process. Like I said, Warwick will explain this in a lot more detail. And then on a digital transformation side, added the ability to reorder data requests and form requests whilst you're creating orchestrations. So those that are often create orchestrations will know if you've done certain things in a specific sequence, it's a bit of a manual exercise to rectify that and change that. Now it's a simple drag and drop exercise. And a very, very good one, I'm sure it's going to make a lot of users happy, is view PDF attachments with a single click. So no more download of a PDF to open it up and to view it. So that was available, the last one, from tools 9.2.8.3. Oh, there's more. June 2024, sorry guys, we were fixing to go into detail. Sales order automation, sales order management, enterprise automation there. The KPIs added to that enterprise automation, and you can manufacturing side, you can view your parts list or shortages by work order status now. Let's see what's next. All right. So the first item I want to discuss in a bit more detail is the volume-based or the buying recommendations and procurement. Like I said at the beginning, this is linked to advanced pricing for procurement. So this functionality allows you, or the system will suggest, if you capture a purchase order, that a discount is available if you order a higher quantity. Quite simple. Those that are familiar with advanced pricing, you'll set up an adjustment definition, ensure that it is set up as a obviously procurement, volume buying, and then your correct level break, which can be quantity, weight, or amount. In this case, example, I'm using the quantity level break. This is the adjustment definition that I set up to make it work. So based on this adjustment definition, the detail, the system will then calculate discounts based on the number of units that I buy. For this example, if you look at the screen there, hopefully you guys can see it properly. From level 10, I get a discount of 5%. Between 10, well, that's based from 10 to 20, the 5%. From 20, between 20 and 30, a 10% discount. And from 30 onwards, I get a 15% discount. Now, how the buying recommendations work, so you specify your definition here, the detail, and then there's a processing option that's been added to P4310 where you specify a tolerance. So if your order quantity is within that tolerance that you are for your adjustment definition, will issue a warning. So in this case, our first line there is from 10. Remember that. So if I go in and I capture a purchase order, you can see in this example, I captured 8. And I defined my tolerance on P4310 as 80%. So based on that, the system goes, well, sorry, dude. You know, if you're within that 80% tolerance, here you can get additional discounts. So it brings up a warning message informing me that there is a volume-based recommendation that exists. From there, quite simple, you go into your row exit, volume, go to volume buying. System will then display the details of the adjustment definition that's linked to the supplier that you set up. You can see what discount you can get. You can now decide what percentage you want to buy, what quantity you want to buy. It's as simple as clicking a radio button there. And then it will bring that information through to the purchase order, populate your quantity ordered, and then obviously apply the applicable discounts. So using this, you'll make sure that you never lose out on any discounts. Perfect. All right, let's move on to our next item. That is automatic calculation of safety stock and inventory. Up to this point, it was manually maintained. You would have calculated your safety stock outside of a system, whichever method you used, and then populate that safety stock in JD Edwards on your branch plant. Now, obviously, as all of us know, safety stock has got a very important role as it affects availability and also plays a role in your MRP calculation. So we want it to be as accurate as we possibly want it to be, could get it to be. So JD Edwards added a new program there called R4225 that automates a calculation based on predefined formulas, which leverages of historical sales, your lead time setup for the items, and configurable parameters that are supplied or are set up and defined on the processing options of application. So once again, like most update reports in JD Edwards, got a proof and a final mode, which you can run it in. So if you were to run it, depending on our processing option setup and whatever history we've got, it will then calculate what the suggested safety stock is. So if you look at my example here, we had a safety stock defined as 2, and the system says, well, no, actually 1 is more accurate based on it. Quite simple to process this. If I want to accept the quantity, whatever the system suggested, I just simply click on process message. I can also go to message revision, change the quantity that I want. I can also ignore it and by using clear message, or it could take me into P41026 to the branch plant tab there to update it manually. Quite nifty. Hopefully you can get more accurate stock holding using this functionality. All right, so that's, you can go there, all updated. So there are a number of formulas that can be used to calculate this. I don't have my calculator with me this morning, so I'm not going to go through these in details. We will share the slides with you after the fact, and then you can review the various formulas that are available to calculate it. But basically, if you look at that, there are 3 various formulas that you can use to calculate your safety stock and populate it. Next item, way long overdue, in my opinion. Inventory location on hold that was released in November 2023. So basically it gives you the ability to put a location on hold. So imagine if you've got a quarantine location or a quality check location, currently it's available. People can ship out of it or transact against it while you're busy with whatever you want to there. Also make your stock counts maybe a bit more accurate. So it's quite simple to set up once again. There's a new UDC 41LS that's been added. On it, you will define a special handling code, either a 1, 2, 3, or 4, each of that controlling how the system will handle or process the transactions then within JD Edwards. So if you use 1 on your location, put it as allow only incoming transactions, so you can still do receipts, but you won't be able to ship out of it, for example. 2, allow outgoing transactions only, so the opposite, you can't do GRVs, you can just still do shipments against that location. 3 blocks you from doing basically any kind of transaction against it, and then 4 allow incoming transactions and movements within the inventory module, so that means you can still do a transfer between the locations, but anything from sales or procurement or work orders or something like that will be blocked. Availability is also determined by the location hold code. So if you specify a handling code of 2, the item will still be available for availability. So that's for issues and for ship confirms and all of that. 1, 3, and 4 will not be considered. So basically that stock is then out of play for the moment. Show you what it quickly looks like. There's your UDC that you set up. We're all familiar with that kind of setup. So you go into your location master, put your special handling code there, which whenever you prefer on the location. And when you process against the transaction, JD Edwards gets mad at you. So obviously, depending on what it is, in this case, we've got a sales order, can't capture the sales order. Of course, there's no outgoing transactions allowed, and also not the inventory. So quite nifty, quite useful, long overdue. All right, so let me chance my arm at some finance stuff, yeah? So on our account ledger inquiry, Oracle added the functionality that you can now drill down into the purchase receipt from the row exit here. Quite simple. Go to your original ledger type entry 1. That will take you to your supplier ledger inquiry. And as you all know from there, you can drill down in your purchase order receipts, saving you a couple of clicks during your processing. And from there, we can go into P43214. Last one, I think, on finance is our default document type for journal entries. The financial guys working in a financial module will know that a document type is a blank field, it's a manual entry, nothing gets defaulted in there at this point in time. You can't specify it. Oracle changed that for us. You can now specify a default document type in the processing option. So when somebody enters the journal, that field in defaults, which can obviously then make sure that you don't process an incorrect journal entry type. So if you have different ones for audit adjustments or for normal day-to-day processing. So maybe just also worthwhile to mention there, although you can default it, you need to use column security to make sure nobody can change it, which is not the end of the world. All right, moving on to our tools layer. Like I said in a first couple of slides. This is very useful for the guys that currently create a lot of orchestrations, and especially orchestrations where your integration is dependent in the sequence in which the data is returned. It could change it previously, I think, but it was quite a manual exercise where you could obviously make a couple of errors and it's not easy to use. So new functionality has been added in this case where you can simply drag and drop it. If you look at my slide here, previous order company is the top one there. If I want to change it, quite simple, just drag and drop and I move it up to the previous order type now. Up to easier, much easier for guys to do, less error prone. So this functionality extends to your input data as well, data input, and as well as on data requests. So much easier for the guys creating orchestrations and less errors or less frustration while trying to create those orchestrations. Move on. All right, the last one we're going to chat about in release 24 highlights is, I think that's what helped a lot of the end user base. This is available from tools release 9282. All right, so I'm just confirming there with our corner. I've got the tools release number right. At the moment, our tools release prior to that, it's a bit of a pain challenge to view attachments. You have to download it and then go open it up. From tools 9283, you simply open up your attachment manager, and then that form of the actual PDF will then be displayed. Perfect. So that is our release 24 highlights. All of this is available on Learn JD Edwards if you want to have a look. And I said we also will distribute the slides or PDFs after the forum, so you can all have a look at it. So what's coming? The release 25 is around the corner. The first iteration of that should come out in the next couple of weeks or so, and then with incremental releases every quarter. So whatever we're discussing now, or I'm showing you at this point in time, we can't exactly confirm when it will be available, but it is planned as part of release 2025. The simplified user experience. If you use advanced warehouse management, the license plate workbench usability, there will be some enhancements to that one. The finance side, the ability to assign the delinquency fees to business unit of invoice. And then if you use real estate management, ability to edit tax information in manual billing lines. Now, Oracle is putting a lot of focus and enhancements on the business process automation side. So there's more enhancements on the enterprise automation for procure to pay side that will be integrated with warehouse management as well as the order to cash side. The next really good and cool functionality that they're adding is process model templates for the enterprise automation. I'll quickly on the slideshow show you just now how that works. And that's going to be available, the templates for order to cash and procure to pay. Those are really stuff to look forward to when it comes out. Feature functionality. So environmental reporting is coming up again. So previously, JD Edwards had the module of environmental accounting. They discarded that at some point. This is a complete redeveloped solution that they offer where you can track your environmental transactions, where it will be captured into a activity ledger, which you can populate whilst you're processing in JD Edwards. So if you capture a voucher, there's some functionality then there that will populate based on, so if you buy fuel, And based on certain parameters and setup, that will populate the activity ledger for you. This is wat Afrikaans word, or the South African word Mahala. That's licensed as part of the foundation system, so Oracle is not going to charge you for that. So, yep, it's for free. You need to just make sure you're up to, obviously there is a dependency on ESUs, but you can get up to that level. If you're up to that level, you can download and implement. And then from Oracle perspective, and Oracles can basically cover just about every need in your business. So the EPM tool, the BI tool, which is quite awesome as well. They build there's models built for that reporting for you. So you can either use your other tools or look at EPM to do that. On the functionality side, a bit further, an AP, accounts payable. I hope you all know that JD8 has got a functionality for embedded in it for voucher match automation. They're currently only extended to three-way matches. From release 25 onwards, there will be the functionality to do it for two-way match as well. So basically all you need now is a bit of an AI tool with character recognition to bring those transactions into JD8. Increased range of account ID. Yeah, I thought that was never going to happen, but it seems like some people, or those will be necessary, some people have got millions and millions of accounts. Where they're running out of account numbers now, so that is then they're going to add alphanumeric functionality to it to increase the numbers available. All right, so Deirdre is warning me I'm talking too slowly and too much, so let me run quickly through this. System admin side, Sentinel administration. Where we've got information about what's happening is simplified development client. So basically that means you don't need WebLogic on all your fat lines. That will be centralized now. Optimized full package build. They claim they're redesigning the way full package builds are done, and it will reduce the time it takes to do a full package build by 85%. So yeah, let's see whether the burger looks like a picture. All right, that's all we have information on this one. Where is my mouse gone? Digital platform. Yeah, that's quite awesome. A lot of development is being spent on giving you information and highlight, or use your data within the system to highlight process improvement opportunities and issues and so forth in it. You'll see better when Warwick goes through the enterprise automation for procurement. So there's what they're going to introduce an enterprise process modeler, quite cool. Works with orchestration. Look at the little picture there. Based to go into that application, that functionality, run orchestration, to specify which order type you want to do it for, and which line type you want to do that takes your activity rules, and then creates a process model for that process, and then you can add and attach metrics to it. So you can easily then see how many orders you have at waiting for approval or where the stuff is getting stuck. So quite useful. Let me run through this quick. Low code, no code. Under there, very good to know about is you can do comparative criteria on queries. So on a query now, you can create and for a watch list is where you can actually now compare where your actual delivery date is greater than a promised delivery date, and get that sort of metrics out of it. You can call an orchestration from a form exit now. You don't have to add a button to JDE, to a form, and yeah, you can add text, images, and images on the E1 pages, and your Enterprise One widget has been improved, where you can add orchestrations now, then pull information from other sources. Enterprise integrations are wonderful. So JD, they're building native for easier integration and connection to the OCI services, so you can hook onto those functionality, that functionality a lot quicker. So what do we have in there? This is just a highlight of where everybody's going. 9 years ago, Oracle started with Internet of Things, which was our orchestrator, and then we went into process automation and all of those various applications. And now the next big thing is AI. Oracle has in their stack, as you can imagine, multiple AI services that they developed and that JD Edward can be used for JD Edward. So it is available across all their applications. So you can see there's general AI agents, code assist, digital assistant, and the last one I want to just maybe highlight here, because that's our next slide pertains to the next slide, is document understanding. And yeah, just you guys gotta just picture this. Get your minds ready here. So with the AI and using an orchestration, and we do it, we can easily, in this example, it is from a receipt to an expense. So you have a physical Walmart little document or a Kentucky slip. Now you want to create an expense claim for it. Using the AI services and all that's available in there, a document registration with the object storage, you can upload that document. AI will obviously recognize it in the OCR and all of that for what it is. Create your expense claim via the orchestration for you, populating all the correct fields, all the values, all of that, as well as then attaching the document to the transaction. Yeah, the expense management is quite a simple example, but I mean, there's a plethora of potential uses. One of the things I can just quickly think about is when you use a quote processing in JD Edwards, for example. Normally, when the supplier sends you the quote, the buyer has to sit there and capture and add it to P4, what's it, 4330 or 1 or 4, which one of those it is. But now you can, using this, you can simply scan it. It will recognize it for what it is and attach it and mail it out. So yeah, this is really something that we, hopefully this is released quite soon, that we can do our next forum based on this as soon as we possibly can. And I think I am in trouble for overrunning a bit here. So I thank you very much, guys. If you have any questions, well, feel free to ask me, or I'll hand it back to Deirdre or to Warwick, that's going to do the next session for us.
Thank you very much, Riaan. Warwick, I'm going to hand over to you, please, to continue with your session. I'll stop sharing.
Thanks, Deirdre. Morning, everyone. I'm going to be going through the enterprise automation. What is enterprise automation? Enterprise automation is the natural evolution from process automation. Whereas process automation is focused on solving a particular problem or improving a particular process, enterprise automation takes a more holistic view of the enterprise, its interconnected and interdependent processes, and the vast amount of data it generates. That data is your digital gold. Having accurate models and metrics allows us to analyze the efficiencies of operations, uncovering inefficiencies and fostering innovation. That innovation leads to solving problems with more automation, streamlined processes, or develop new business models, and then positive impact on the operation can be measured. Okay, leveraging your existing data to reveal blind spots. So with enterprise automation, it's available in release from release 9.2.7.4. And just a reminder, don't underestimate the value of your ERP data. Okay, the objectives of enterprise automation are to expand the focus from individual transactions to your business as a whole. Make better use of the data you already have to reveal blind spots, and easily define processes and data you need for better visibility. Okay, the framework of enterprise automation is based on the following life cycle. So if we look at the life cycle, you've got ingest, which is getting higher value of your transactional data. Model is to get an accurate picture of your real business processes based on data. Analyze, get clear visibility into opportunities, threats, and anomalies. Solve is to use easy no-code, low-code for automated solutions. And then measure, rapid results and continuous improvement. Okay, so if we look at ingest, to get higher value out of your transactional data, your existing data in the system is waiting to be used. Examples of this data, your different statuses, your order activity rules, ledgers, order tables, etc. Model is to get an accurate picture of your real processes based on data. All the data you gather, you need a way to analyze it or visualize it. You can do that through Enterprise One pages and composite pages. Analyze is to get clear visibility into opportunities, threats, and anomalies. You can get transparency using watch lists, OneView reports, and UX1 role-based pages. Solve, use easy no-code, low-code tools for automated solutions. Tools such as workflow and orchestrations. Measure, rapid results and continuous improvements. You can measure your progress using UX1 role-based pages or analytics. Okay, so I'm going to be demonstrating the enterprise automation from a procure-to-pay process. And what are we going to go through? So we're going to be looking at composite pages, tiles, queries, watch lists, analytics, UX1 pages. And then we're also going to look at solving a particular issue. So we've identified an issue with open purchase orders, where you have old purchase orders in the system, which results in inaccurate data. Budgeting is impacted and your availability is also impacted. So if we move across, this is JD Edwards. And this is the pre-built procure-to-pay model that Oracle has come up with. So if we look at this particular page, it is pre-built. The top section of the page, we have your whole order to pay process. You've got these various tiles on the top dictating the various processes in the procure-to-pay process. In the middle section, we'll have some analytics. And in the bottom section of the page, we will have the some KPIs that Oracle has defined. Okay, so now that you've had a view of the page, let's go and see what else do we have on the particular page. The little blocks are known as tiles. So if we look at the different tiles, we could click on the particular tile and it will take us into another process. So if I had to click on purchase order process, it's going to call up my purchase order process page. And then you've got your different model of the purchase order process. So I can actually go and see my enter purchase orders, my approvals, my voucher matches. And I've also got some watch lists on the bottom of the page. Now, these watch lists are what we defined. So you can actually add all your own little watch lists as a specific tile as well. And define as many as you want to. You could also have a collapsible section on your composite page. So I'm going back to the pre-built model. And what's really cool about this, you'll notice on the different tiles, we have got various watch lists. Okay, so you can, with the new tools release, you can actually go in and attach 4 watch lists to a specific tile. So if I had to go and hover over my purchase order approval process, this block here, I can look at this particular watch list, and this is orders waiting to approval waiting for approval. If I click on that particular watch list, it's going to take me into the detail of those 29 orders waiting for approval. You will notice once I've gone in here, you can have orders waiting for approval. I can have various queries set up. So if I'm wanting to look at orders waiting for approval for the last 7 days, I can change my particular query that way and display the data based on queries that I define. So going back to my pre-built page. So if I'm looking at the whole procure to pay process, I can at a glance go and look at various watch lists in the process to go determine how am I doing in the system. If I had to go to the voucher match, for example, I can hover over that particular watch list and that would give me my open receipts. So these are the receipts that are still to be matched, which is quite cool because from one page, I can go into various options. Yeah. Now, if I had to go and look at some of the analytics, so that's the middle section of the page. If I go and look at my approval process analysis, I can see a graphical representation of all my orders waiting for approval. In this particular screen, I can also go and look at it from various queries that I've set up. So if I wanted to look at waiting for approval for the last more than 7 days, my graphical representation would also go and change. If I'm going to go and look at waiting for approval past requisition date, so that's telling me that I've requested something, I wanted it at a specific date, but that particular order has not been approved yet. So naturally, it's not going to make that particular time. And if I needed to drill down to the data, I could actually just click on the data, and then I could go and see all the different data that makes up the graphical representation. Okay, if I go out, similar from the same page, I can go and look at from an AP perspective, I can go look at all my open vouchers by supplier. And once again, I could have multiple queries in here. So if I'm looking at vouchers that are due in the next 30 days, I can go and see I've only got that one supplier. If I'm looking at vouchers currently in a payment run, I can go and see which creditors are currently in a payment run. Okay, so that's the analytical part. Then we've got some KPIs on the page. So the first KPI is cycle time, and the cycle time represents how long it takes an order from actual requested date to when it was actually closed. And you can go and set a threshold. So that 3 could be a threshold that you set. So that's my norm is 3. In this particular case, it took 1 day to complete. I can also go and look at my supplier delivery performance, and that is looking at your promise date versus actual delivery date and measuring it as a percentage. So if I'm looking at Parts Emporium, the green, they're quite a good supplier. They're constantly delivering on time. If I had to go and look at my consumable supplier, they constantly past due. So it gives you a nice view of the data. Then they've also included a spend analysis. And if I look at the spend analysis, that looks at the supplier catalog price versus the actual price. So for this particular supplier, the supplier catalog price for the orders were $402 or 402 Rand. And what actually happened was it went up to 602, which is telling me I've got an issue with that particular supplier. So that's that particular page that's pre-built. And I can also now go into the purchase order process. Okay, so that particular tile will take me off to another process. So from here, I can go into my different purchase order approvals. I can do my send print purchase orders, and I can go to my goods receipt. I can also go and attach multiple tiles or multiple watch lists to the tile. Now you'll notice that these different watch lists have got different colors. So if I'm looking at my particular screen at the moment, I'm seeing that at the bottom, I've got a blue one for 6 with 6, which is open receipts lines. The blue means I have set it up, that particular watch list, I have set up certain criteria, which is within tolerance or out of tolerance. So where it's blue, I'm saying I don't need to really worry about that. Where it's red, it's actually critical. So this 200 plus is actually critical. I need to action something because it's past my critical threshold. Where I've got the orange, that is a sort of warning. It's going to be approaching red. So let me go and act before it actually gets to the critical scenario. So what we've done at Resolve Red, we've actually also added some purchase order analysis. So if I'm going to go and look at my purchase order analysis, this is going to take me off to a UX1 page. Yeah, so on this UX1 page, this is totally customizable. You can add panes, you can change panes, you can add predefined graphical representation. So if I'm starting off, I'm going to start in the middle. If I'm looking at, I've got some watch lists. So if I had to look at the whole procure to pay process, what is this actually telling me? If just looking at the watch list. So even if I'm looking at here, I've got 65 lines of open purchase orders. I've got 37 lines of orders that have not been approved. I've got 28 lines of orders that have not been printed. And I've got 0 orders that have been printed, printed but not received. So that's good. So at a glance, I can see the different stages based on your order activity rules as to where things are in my procure to pay process. The supply analysis, graphical representation, I can see my supply analysis as to how my different suppliers are doing. Blue indicating that it's 0 to 30 days. Then I've got my orders that are 30 to 60 days. Then I've got my orders that are 60 to 90 days. And where I've got the orange, it is greater than 90 days. So that's a potential problem for me because they haven't met their promised delivery date. What I can do on the supply analysis, I can also pop it out. And then you can see the graphical representation much bigger. And I can also go and look at various queries on this particular graph. So if I'm wanting to look at specific order types greater than 6 months, my graphical representation will change. If I hover over it, I can go and see, okay, Alpine, they've got 6, they've got 5, and they've also got 5. And I can go and pop it in again. I can also have a specific pie chart. So if I'm looking at this particular pie chart, how are my orders that are over 60 days doing? Because I'm looking at this particular query, and these are specific orders that are greater than 6 months. And what I can see in this particular case, orders that are greater than 6 months, they are defined by 3 suppliers, Alpine making 37%, Allen 31%, and consumable suppliers also sitting at 31%. Now, this measurement here that we've got here in the pie graph, as well as in the bar chart on top here, that represents all orders that are greater than 6 months. But we also know that some of those orders could be dirty data that hasn't been cleaned up in the system. So how can we automatically go and clean up that data? If we have a business rule in the system that says, no, all orders over 6 months, I want to automatically cancel in the system because I know I'm not going to be receiving those purchase orders. So what we've created is we created a sort of solve section in this UX1 page. So if I'm looking at the open orders section, which is my solve section, I can go and see the different tiles. I've got a tile that says purchase orders older than 6 months. So if I go in there, I can go and see all my purchase orders older than 6 months. Once again, I have got a watch list on here. So I've got 7 orders, which are open stock orders. I've got 18 open non-stock orders, and in total, I've got 25. I could click on that particular watch list. And it would display all the orders making up those 18. So now what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to go and clean up these orders. So in this tile, this assign the O2 hold code, when I am going to go and clean up my old orders, I'm first actually going to go and assign a specific hold code to that particular order so that we don't straight away go and cancel them. Someone can actually go and review them first before we actually do the cancellation. On this particular tile, we've actually attached an orchestrator to it. So if I'm going to click on this particular tile, what it's going to do is going to take out all the orders that are older than 6 months, and it's going to go and assign a hold code to those orders. Okay. You'll notice on the screen, it's busy processing, and it's kicking off an orchestrator that is going to sorry, my apologies. Just go back in there again. Okay, now what that has done, it has actually executed that orchestrator. If I now had to go and look at my watch list, I can refresh the particular tile, and I can see that at the moment I have got 13 orders that are due for cancellation, and I've got 3 orders that I've excluded from cancellation. If I look at the bottom tile, these are the orders that I've already gone in and actually cancelled in the past. So I've got 62 of those particular orders. Once I've reviewed those orders that are marked for cancellation and I'm happy with it, I can use the next orchestrator to automatically go and cancel those orders. I'm kicking off that orchestration. That's going to go and cancel those orders that are older than 6 months. And the orchestrator is going through all those particular orders and going through them and performing the cancellation. Okay, it has completed. If I now had to go and refresh that particular tile, you'll notice now that I've got 0 orders that are due for cancellation. I've still got my 3 orders that I've excluded from the cancellation. And if I go and refresh that particular tile, I will see now it was at 62. I cancelled those, I cancelled 13 orders. So orders that I've automatically cancelled in the system have now moved up to 75. If I look at my graphical representation on the right-hand side here with my open orders by supplier, after I've cleaned up the orders and I refresh my graphical representation, I can now go and see, okay, for all my orders older than 6 months, the suppliers that make it up are Allen suppliers and the consumable suppliers. So in this particular case, I was able to measure what it was before I did my automatic cleanup, and I can now go and measure what it is after I've done my cleanup in the system. So if I go back to the different module, so when they're talking about ingesting the data, we're using the data that's already exists in the system to define our different watch lists. If we're looking at model, we've got our model process based on the tiles on the top, which is dictating my whole procure to pay process. I can analyze using my analytics. I can measure using my KPIs, and also you saw on the UX1 pages. And then I've also solved. I actually went in and I actually solved a particular issue with orders over 6 months that are just lying in the system. And then based on the graphical representation, I was able to go and measure how it was before, how it was afterwards. And that concludes my demonstration on enterprise automation. And I'll be handing over to Akona. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Warwick. That was awesome. And I think just to confirm again, this is the introduction of enterprise automation in release 24 and further enhancements in release 25, as well as some pre-developed processes, particularly in the procurement and sales, already available in release 24. So if you want to unpack any further of that, as you can see, we've applied it in our environment, and Warwick has configured some additional processes around that. So please reach out to us. You can contact us directly, and we will be able to assist you with any further inquiries. So I'm going to hand over to Akona now to take you through some of the technical enhancements that was made available in release 24.
Thank you, Taylor. Morning, everyone. One of the first topics I'll be discussing are automated package builds. Although the process for automating your package builds was released in prior releases, it does fall in line with the theme of simplification and automation. So with tools release 9.5, Oracle includes the ability to assemble, build, and deploy packages using the web client. This new feature enabled opportunity to automate using orchestrations and scheduling those orchestrations. Automated package builds significantly lowers the total cost of ownership for our JDA customers by simplifying administration tasks and reducing maintenance tasks. The build process has been considerably streamlined and automated with minimal manual intervention, reducing the risk of human error. This functionality allows us to optimize the development process by automating and scheduling both full and update packages, and further decreases the reliance on CNC administrators, promoting a more efficient continuous delivery process. So some of the benefits of enabling this feature is to automate and optimize your package builds, saves time and effort. Notifications once the build is complete are received timelessly. It speeds up testing and bug fixes. In order to implement this feature, Oracle has delivered a UDO PAR file, which consists of orchestration, service requests, and notifications. That is TSP KG PLD02. Once you've deployed that, you need to approve and share all the delivered UDOs, apply the necessary security for access to the UDOs. It also includes a health check for the enterprise server as a pre-build check before you build your package to check the status of the enterprise server. And you need to also subscribe to the notification that comes with that bundle. And that notification will send you an update either via email or within JDE to see that your package has either successfully been built or not. Okay, so how does it work? So you still need to run the orchestration that you've just imported that has been delivered by Oracle. And this orchestration, as mentioned, will verify the status of your enterprise server prior to submitting the build. You'll get a form pop-up that you need to fill in some information relating to your build. And this information could be package name, path code, OMW project, as well as the emailing list. And some of this detail could be default detail. So it could be pre-populated with just a little tweak here and there. So once the build has been completed, a notification is triggered with an email that has a link directly to the package build application. And this can also be viewed within JDE. On the screenshot on the right, it shows that the package has been completed and is ready to be deployed as a notification within JDE. And a verification check would be to go into the build application, search for the build that has been completed, and verify the status of the build. You will see a QBE for active status. If it's green, it's successful, ready to be deployed. If it's red, then it needs to be investigated as to what went wrong. The final verification check will be the standard package build reports, and you can view those to see all your objects have been built successfully prior to deployment. So the advantage of this feature is it gives us an opportunity to create customization, to create automation and simplifying the build process. So for example, one could create a custom promotion path that will be tied back to the actual path code. So let's say status 23 could be tied to status 21, which is DV central objects. So a developer completes development, promotes to status 23. You could schedule the build that will pick up anything that's in status 23, package build it, and further customize the deployment process, which will do your pre-checks. And once the deployment has been completed, you could then promote that same project from status 23 to the next status of 26. So although this is not a new feature, it does, as I said, fall in line with the theme of digital transformation, simplification, and automation. And I think with time invested, this could create a lot of time saving and turnaround time for development and bug fixes to get to production. Okay. So for time constraint reasons, we didn't we won't have any demo on the package build process or this new second topic I'll be talking about. So impact analysis, enhancements and dashboard is the second topic. And this is part of the code current adoption tools. And this falls within the components of the JDE Update Manager utility, which I'll talk about further in the next coming slides. So the dashboard itself has been introduced in release 24. It's a comprehensive interface to visualize the objects and business processes that are updated when a patch is applied to your system. And the tool provides the ability to make informed decisions to mitigate risks and optimize resources. Shows us changed objects that are included in the planned update, identify select changed objects to be applied to your environment, and this analysis will be based on your current environment. And if your ESUs are not in sync across environments, the results will differ of the impact analysis based on what you have in each path code. And together with the object tracker, it helps identify objects used in your environment that should be included in the application test plans. So it simplifies the testing of an application of an ESU, where you might only a few processes within that ESU that you are using are impacted instead of end-to-end testing. It helps or it eases to identify objects to be retrofitted, and this has been a manual process. As some of you may know that we have gone through in the past years to identify objects that have been modified and what needs to be retrofitted. And that analysis sheet then gets sent to developers so they know what to retrofit, and this does aid in that process. And it also helps identify training requirements. So a bit of background, the impact analysis enhancements and dashboards are part of a phased deployment of the Update Manager utility, as previously mentioned. And this is a collection of tools that offers a powerful application deployment environment in which CNCs and PAs can both customize E1 software updates to suit specific needs quickly and easily through the web client without the need to use the deployment client anymore. And this process historically was time consuming and required significant manual intervention to do the comparisons, do the analysis, and review those analyses by different teams within that process, from CNCs to PAs as well as developers. So this feature allows for continuous improvement in the JD ecosystem and offers businesses greater flexibility in managing updates in request to remain code current. So in the table below, as I've mentioned, it was a staggered deployment approach. So from release 22, I've listed what this component that came with at that time and what has been added since release 23. Okay, the prerequisites to get this feature, you need tools 9282 or later, Change Assistant 4.17 or later, and the Oracle delivered Update Manager UDOs that you apply using Change Assistant. And once you have deployed those, you need to approve and share and apply the necessary security. So this would be for your CNCs, BAs, as well as developers again, as all of this information is critical to those three people. So prior to getting the automated analysis, you need to run through a configuration process of the impact analysis for your environment. And this helps create the impact analysis record. And post that, once you import an ESU for analysis, the analysis process automatically kicks off and gives you the required data of what the ESU is bringing in versus what you have in your system. And below is just a view of post the implementation, what it should look like. You get a composite page, and the first subsection there is what we're currently talking about. Okay, so what is this update impact analysis? It's a comprehensive utility that provides the ability to track what object changes are brought in by the ESU or ASU and how those impact your current ESU state or code state in your environment per path code, should you have a difference in ESU application across the path codes. And this analysis provides 4 views. The overall view a prerequisite view, object usage view, as well as a scheduled view. And the screen below shows some information that this process gives on the grid. And just to mention a few items, it can indicate if an object has been customized, checked out, and what actions are to be applied by the ESU to your environment. Okay, so the overall view, it gives a detailed view, including important object-specific information, whether the object is customized, checked out, holding a token, and the update action that will be performed should you apply that particular ESU to your environment. And that's a image of the grid and how the grid looks like when you've got your overall view opened. And the prereqs view is your prerequisite. It does an analysis to review the dependencies of the ESU or ASU that ESU that you're trying to apply, what it's dependent on, and how far or how much of those dependencies have you applied, as indicated in the screenshot below. Okay, the third view is the object usage view. This leverages the usage of object usage tracker, and that has to be activated in the environment for the accuracy of this information to be brought forward by JD Edwards. And again, this used to be a manual process managed outside. There's certain PDFs that you have to, a process that you have to run, PDFs to review, sometimes SQLs to run, and all of this data input into Excel for analysis outside of JDE. So with this feature, a lot of that stuff has been simplified and brought into JDE, which could be represented in a simpler format or way to view. Okay, so as part of this feature, there's a statistics analysis view. So what this does is it shows you how many objects the update has and how many of those objects affect your environment and how many of those affected objects are customized. So for example, the ESU that we did as a test for this presentation had 562 objects, of which our environment only 356 would be impacted should we apply it. Okay, and another component is the special instructions tracking. So this option for getting information from the update center populates the information in E1 by way of a report generation and allows the ability to track the status of each special instruction. And this currently is a manual verification process that we run through post applying special instructions after ESUs. And the status that it gives is applied in progress, not applied, not applicable. And the screen below shows a graphical representation of what it could look like in your JD Edwards environment. Okay, so all this information that's represented on the grid can be exported in the form of a report, whether it's CSV or PDF, for further analysis and any internal team presentations that might be required prior to engaging on a code change project. Okay, so the dashboard itself graphically depicts all the information that's derived from the impact analysis. So all those views, that data that was outputted on the grid for us, has a graphical representation, which is an easier way to view and toggle around to see all that data represented in a graph. You can toggle by path code, you can toggle by module, you can toggle by objects as well. And I think it's a simpler way to see where you are and see where you potentially need to be and how far how far you are to get to where you need to be. And that also helps you with planning and timing and resources for that particular project. Thank you. That is me. Any questions? Okay, thank you. I'll hand over.
There is a question from Justin.
Okay.
Whose hands up?
No, we're all good. Thank you.
Oh.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, Akona. So the next topic that we're going to turn on our agenda is workflow. It's not a new concept in JD Edwards. It's been around for a while. Previously, it's been quite cumbersome to create and manage. There's been a lot of improvements from Oracle's perspective and incorporating this into orchestration as well to make it easier for guys to use. So between Van and myself, I'm going to do a bit of verbiage here, and then Van is going to show some practical examples of where we can apply workflows and orchestrations for that matter in our processes. So let me ask the first question here. Workflow, what is workflow? So here we have got the ChatGPT answer. The workflow is a sequence of tasks, activities, or processes that are structured to accomplish a specific goal or outcome. It typically involves the following elements: tasks, roles, sequence, and rules. So what needs to be done, who needs to do it, in which sequence, and what rules apply to it. From a JD Edwards perspective, the JDE definition is Oracle's JD Edwards Enterprise Workflow enables you to automate the high-volume, formerly paper-based processes into an email-based process flow across the network. Documents, information, and tasks pass from one participant to another for action based on a set of procedural rules. The result is an automated and efficient process with minimal user involvement, which enables you to streamline the existing business processes, increase in efficiency, and reduce process time. So as Werner showed, so the whole sort of mantra of Oracle the last while was automate, and workflow just helps you to do that and also make sure that you have the proper controls in place during that process. So if you look at JD Edwards, and this can be, I mean, there could be a million examples here that we can use. And just look at your business. So what are the benefits? It obviously introduces control. If you, for example, consider, and as one of the examples that Van will show us is updates to master data. You don't want to just, for example, let somebody change a bank account or update your, for that matter, a postal address or anything on your supply master or credit limits. Workflow can be used to control that process. New, and this is quite cool, with the use of stateful orchestrations, which was introduced in release 24, the process can be paused. So you can kick off a report. The batch matter will show this to us as well. A batch job. That job will generate, and if it's but it will not finish whatever processing it needs to do. So, and it will send a notification to the recipient telling them to review the batch job, check it out, confirm the data. As soon as that person approves it, whoops, it finishes the processing. Now think about if everything that you have updates or you send out to customers, say a invoice run, you run a batch of invoices. you can now use the stateful orchestration, pause that in your workflow approval route, send that to the sales manager. He can review all the invoices as they're going to go out, and then approve those, and then only send those out. So that is exceptionally powerful. Other benefit is you can use it for added approval in transactions. That's a couple of areas where maybe JD Edwards hasn't got the most functionality. One of the examples that Werner's going to show us is the approval or introducing approvals to AP voucher or AP invoice. Another example that we've built here is approval of credit orders on a sales credit order. You can just think about, you can use this for queries I've always had or people have asked for is on improved approvals, for example, on cycle counts. Approval of sales quote, for example, before it gets converted into a sales order. At this point in time in JD Edwards, it's a bit of a manual process. And with workflow being so much easier now, that functionality is just, or putting these controls in place is just so much more in reach of the user community here. All right, and obviously we have increased accuracy and efficiency. Instead of somebody just process a transaction and whoops, it was wrong. It can be reviewed and approved and then processed instead of doing rework and credit notes and whatever else. Introduces notifications of tasks, so I'll know what's coming my way to approve as well. Introduces further automation in the processes, and then obviously, environmental accounting and reduces the paper flow. So it is a wonderful tool, something worth investigating a bit further. So I'm going to hand over to Werner quickly, and he's going to show you a couple of practical examples. Within those examples, we try to cover as much possible scenarios as we can, because each scenario has got its sort of own little approach, and there are multiple approaches that we can use for it. For example, if you look at, say, an update on address book, and normally if you click OK, it's done. There's not a status code that you can introduce to hold it. So the way you're going to handle that workflow and that update is different from the way you would handle, for example, an example that we've shown here is the credit orders. The sales credit order. That's all know the sales process is credit driven, status code driven. So we can utilize the status code to put a hold on a transaction there, and then to approve it. And then on our example for the voucher match, which is something that Oracle actually developed, they used a hold code that's available on it. There's a status on it to flag it there, and then basically do the approval based on that. So there's in the examples, we've used a distribution list that's set up that gives you the flexibility of multiple levels and so forth, and a lot of other components that you can use to base your approvals on. So you can do it, say, for example, based on an individual. You can perhaps do it based on a business unit. You can do it on perhaps on a combination of those things. All right, so I'm going to hand over to Werner. Let him take you through and show you all these artwork. Thank you.
Thank you, Riaan, for the introduction. Let me share my screen. Right, good morning, everybody. Before we get into the practical examples, Riaan has already mentioned a number of things. So let's just get into it. Overview. Steady workflow enables you to automate formerly paper-based processes into a Workcenter message or email process flow across a network. Internal and external messages can be sent with the workflow process. Internal messages stay within JDE. They are read using the Workcenter. External messages are sent via email. New functionality in release 24. Workflow monitor, and like Riaan mentioned, the stateful orchestrations. We've identified these samples and configured them differently to show some flexibility. Workflow approval is very configurable. The bank account and voucher entry workflows have been developed by Oracle and are available from release 23. Okay. Then workflows are initiated from logic extensions. Logic extensions are called from an orchestration or can be called from a form extension. Workflow distribution lists, like Riaan also mentioned, are configured to route messages to selected users to review and act on workflow messages. Workflow delegations can be done to delegate a selected workflow message or workflow messages to a different user for a specific time. Okay. Then workflow processes sometimes generate messages that require you to take action, such as approving or rejecting changes to a record. Active messages contain shortcut buttons that links directly to an application. When you click on the shortcut button, current information is retrieved from the database. This ensures that you get accurate information even if changes are made after the active message was sent to you. Then we've got workflow queues. Workflow processes are used to send active messages to specific queues. Different workflow queues can be configured and custom queues can be created so that messages are organized. Okay. We'll also be looking at some monitoring tools. Message Center is used to view informational messages and action messages if required. The Process Task Monitor gives you an overview of the steps and status of a workflow process. Workflow Monitor gives you more details regarding workflow process, having drill-down options to display process diagram, Gantt chart, and actual details of a workflow. If a remark was entered during the approval reject process, the information can be viewed against that process step. Stateful orchestrations is a new feature in release 24, where orchestration is paused. After approval selection, the orchestration continues processing. Right. For the demo, we used the dashboard to show some different ways of how workflow processes can be activated or submitted. With status-driven applications, additional statuses can be implemented for the workflow process. In other cases, for example, pay status or hold codes can be used for the workflow process. We will also look at some workflow steps, setups, and tools. Right. Okay. So what we're going to do, I'll just go and show you some steps on the dashboard. So I'm just going to switch over to JDE and we'll start looking at the dashboard. start off just to explain the workflow setup and the distribution list. So like Riaan mentioned as well, there are distribution lists that you can configure. And we've configured some distribution lists, which I'll explain. And I'm just going to look at the credit order approval. In this distribution list, we've got 3 approvers linked to it with different threshold values. If a sales credit order is below the threshold, it will not be routed for approval. Okay, and this is based on the order total, and it's got a beginning, effective, and a through date. This specific approval is based on that business unit address book number. So whenever a credit order for that specific business unit is entered, it will then follow this approval route. Can also be configured per user. There are many different ways of configuring these parent-child revisions, and this is stock standard in JDE. Right. Then just a quick look at, we've got a workflow delegation. Like previously said, in here, we can delegate a specific workflow or all workflows for a period of time to a different approver. And, oops, cancel. And then let's now just quickly look at the samples we're going to do. We are going to do an address book mailing change. Mailing information change is sent for approval. After approval, mailing information will be updated. Okay. In this example, we have configured a distribution list that will then distribute it to an approver. The next example we're going to look at, we will increase a customer credit limit. On here, we will select a approver. And in this example, we will run a stateful orchestration, which will pause the process. We'll run the address book report and update the address book data after approval. Then we'll also be looking at the bank account. We'll change the description of a bank account. It will be routed for approval. And once approved, obviously data will be updated. This is a Oracle-based process. The voucher entry as well. We're going to enter a voucher. It works on the pay status codes, and we'll also look at the actual codes as we go along. And then the credit order, that's also status-based driven or value-driven, and we'll also update the statuses. The first exercise, we will then also go and look at the process task monitor, the workflow monitor, to see actually the process and steps. And for the remaining exercises or demos, we will go to the process or task and process monitors afterwards. So let's then start with the address book mailing information change. Let's just enter a address book number. Right. We are going to go to the row, address book revision. And you will notice we've added a button onto the screen for the address book changes. So if we look at the mailing information, this is our current mailing information. I now want to update the mailing address. It will now default the mailing information into the screen. I'm now just going to say add block A, for example, and I'm going to submit this for a approval. Let me exit out of the application. I'm now going to log on as the approver. In this example, approver has also got the same landing screen. I'm going to go to my message center. I will see there's something in my personal in-basket, and these are the things, and it says, well, we've got something to approve. And we can see the block A, and we then have the option to say workflow approval, accept, reject, and we can add a mark in here. So we're now going to accept this change. I'll go back to the requester screen. We can now have a look and say row, address book revision, mailing information, the information is updated. If we go to our main screen at in our message center, we can see that we actually received a notification. We'll also get the notification at the top telling us that the address book change was updated. Right. Same in here, same message. All right. Let's now look at specific tasks. Okay, so let's look at our process task monitor. Let's enter today's date. We can now see that this workflow was kicked off for address book number 3090, and we can see the different steps that were followed. So that's just a monitor. Okay. Obviously, for each different workflow, we will have different workflow processes. Now, looking at the workflow monitor for today's date, we can see that we've got this process. If we expand this process, we can see the actual process diagram, process that was followed. We've got the scan chart, and we've actually got the detailed steps in the process, and we can also view marks that were entered during the approval process. So this process is followed and is applicable to all workflow processes. So after our session, we can just go and review, open up the workflow task monitors and a workflow monitor to view all the related tasks. Next step we're going to do is a customer credit limit. So in the first step, it automatically routed because we've set up a distribution list. In the customer credit limit, let's use find accounts receivable, and we've also added a button. Customer's current credit limit is 80. And in this case, we've got originator number, new credit limit, and approver. So I'm going to put in my address book number, approver 60801, and I'm going to say, well, I now want to increase the credit limit to 90. I'm going to route this for approval. Just going to close out of here. Let's just swap back to the approver. I'm going to refresh, and it now says, well, I've got the new message. Okay, and it says customer this credit limit increase from 80 to 90. So these messages are also configurable. You can set it up as required. So in this case, again, I'm just going to say, well, I'm going to approve. Well, now send the message back to my workflow, my message center, and there's my message to say it's been approved. Okay, so let's go back into the customer accounts receivable credit, and we can see it's been updated to 90. Okay, let's get back to our dashboards. On this specific orchestration, like I said, this is a stateful orchestration. It's going to submit the report, and then we can have our stateful orchestrations. This is a monitor for us as well, and currently there are no stateful orchestrations running. Okay, so let's submit this report. We'll now submit the report. I'm just going to put in 60741, my address book number, and we don't have to swap between the screens. And this report now runs. Okay, it indicates that it's finished running. So if we now go to our stateful orchestrations, it's now entered a record. With the stateful orchestrations, it links a stateful orchestration ID, and against this ID, all related information is stored. Okay. So if we go back to the message center, we can now see that please review address book information. It gives us a little bit detail. On our action buttons, I can now actually go and view the report. I've got the option to approve, and I've got the option to say, well, send for rework. I'm going to say, view the report. We can now analyze the data, approve, and say, well, yes, I'm happy with this information. Okay. And for this exercise, I'm not going to approve it. I'm going to say, well, needs rework. I'll send a message, so and because I'm the requester and the approver, I'm going to refresh the screen, and I get the message back says address book status needs rework. Oh, yeah. And that's basically how the stateful orchestration works. If I now remove this, I refresh, it says it's been completed. Okay. Right. Next step in the process, what we're going to do is we are going to change a bank account description. So let's just find, and we can, let's use this Bank of Boston. I'm going to select, and this is once again a pre-configured, it's going to go to a distribution list for approval. Okay. I'm just going to say ABC routed for approval. Okay. Confirmation, it's been submitted for approval. And if I swap back to my approver, I'm going to refresh my message center. I've got a message indicating that action needs to be taken because this is an Oracle developed solution. It's got custom, or not custom, it's got forms they generated showing you the previous information and the new information. Once again, I can enter a description and I can approve or reject. In this case, I am going to approve. This message now has been approved. I can say find. Data has not been updated because there are 2 levels of approval. So if I just show you, I'm not going to do the following step. I'm just going to show you the bank account workflow monitor. For the bank details, if we look at the details of the bank, it shows us that approver number has approved, and there's a second approver that needs to approve before the actual bank information is updated. Now we're going to look at the voucher entry. Let me add a voucher. One business unit, one supplier is 68591. This number is, let's call it the 14th. General date today. Gross amount is, let's call it 72.56. Due date is the 25th. And bank account number 1.111.BPA. .1.105. So this is also a value-based distribution list, which will now distribute for approval, and obviously the tolerances will affect. Okay, 4157. Document number 4157, find, and we can see that this pay status has been routed for. It's workflow in progress. Let's now go back to our program. Let's refresh. Okay, we can see there's our workflow approval, and there's a request giving us the details, and we can say workflow approval, and we can approve. So that was the workflow process. If we now refresh the screen, we can see approved for payment. So in this case, the pay status was used to actually prevent editing or give you the status. Okay. So bank address changes, I'm going to close. And now going back, I'm going to do a credit order. The credit order is status-based driven. And we've looked at the distribution list. So credit order. M30, like I mentioned, in this case, the approval list is based on the address book number of the branch plant. Just, let's first add. Okay. So 23002. And we are going to do a credit on this item, 4 items, and we are going to do a credit of this item. So we can now see that this order is above the minimum threshold that I showed you earlier, and it's below the 4,000. And so basically when I submit this, it will then be routed for approval. Let's see, okay. Our order number is 290. And we can see that our status is 520/530. If I look at 530, in our case, it says workflow waiting approval. Okay. So now, if we now go back to our approver, let's refresh. And we've now got sales order workflow. And we've actually got 2 messages. From this message, we can now go into review the order detail. We've got this message just to give you an overview. And then we can go actually and link to the customer service inquiry and review the order. After reviewing the order, we can then say, well, we want to approve the order. Workflow approval, and we can accept the change. So let's now go back to requester, and if we refresh the screen, status has now moved to 580. Print invoice. So I can also go to my message center. We've now received a lot of messages. So for the voucher, it says voucher has been approved. This is my report I submitted, my address book report. And on the sales order side, it says it's been approved. If it's been rejected, I get a similar message. And in my personal in basket, I've got this was the address book information. And then together, I've also got the notification to say, well, this credit order was approved. Now let's just quickly have a look at the process task monitors of all the transactions we did that took place. It's grouped into the different categories, and you can now drill down into each category and to see, well, over here, because it's a high-level overview, we can see that approver 1 has approved and approver 2 hasn't approved it as yet. So that gives you a quick overview. And the similar will happen or will apply to all other processes. If we now look at the workflow monitor, like mentioned, we see much more information, and this is then shows us completed. These two have been completed. Oh, that one went into error for some other reason. You can now go and investigate. And yes, and this one is still active. So just at a glance, and you can now drill down. So if we now go and look at this one, we can then see that on the process diagram, okay, at this final step, there was an issue. Okay. And you can now go and investigate and see why, where, and when. Any questions?
Yes, thank you, Werner. A question from Sean regarding the stateful orchestration, as to perhaps just give a bit more information around the use case and what is happening in the background so that there's an understanding. But before I ask you to field the question, in the interest of time, if you've got commitments at 10 o'clock, just again, we will distribute these slides as well as make available the recording. You must just please give us a bit of time to convert the recording into a YouTube, as you won't be able to access it in our environment because of firewalls and so on. Before we field the questions, thank you very much, Werner, and all our speakers and all of you that have attended today. Please, we will notify you of the next forum as soon as we know what is exactly released in update 1 for release 25. We're keen then to show you some more of the information and more of the functionality that is available. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to first hand over then again back to Werner to answer the question from Sean Ann. Thank you, Werner.
Thank you, Deirdre. Yeah, so basically stateful orchestration, when you submit a process, now, for example, like with this report and like Riaan also mentioned with invoices and so on, it gives you the opportunity to first review the information. So it actually puts a pause on the actual orchestration. So, and then once you then approve it, the process will continue. You will get a message indicating yes, was approved or rejected, like we saw with this report. Certain applications, you can also use it. What if it's also status-based driven and so on?
Yeah, but if I can maybe jump in there, Warwick's example of a cleanup of the old purchase orders could be a perfect example for this. You don't just want to run orchestration to cancel old bunch of old POs. You probably want some approval on that, so you can use the stateful orchestration in that case as well.
Yes, yes.
Or any report that's going to do updates, for example.
Yes, you can use that.
Okay, so that thumbs up, so that's understood. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks, Werner.
Pleasure. Any other questions?
Or any other questions for any of the other speakers? We're happy the team will stay behind to field all questions. Thank you, Melanie. It's our pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Warwick, can you hang your back a bit?
Sorry. Justin?
Yes.
How's it, Justin?
Lucky you, but. Question for you.
Go for it.
Our current version, right? You know, we're a wee bit back. How long will the actual upgrade process take? More or less? Thumbs up, obviously. If we were to upgrade.
I take it we would obviously have to do a project plan for you and stuff like that, Justin. I wouldn't be able to answer that offhand. I don't know if Riaan's still online, which would be prepared to give a thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm guessing about a year.
Yeah, Justin, we're meeting soon to discuss. I'll give you answer real soon offline, all right?
Lekker.
All right, thanks, mate.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for the
Justin.
session.